Okay, we ready? Could we all please rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Can I welcome you all to the September 2022 Ordinary Council meeting of the City of Perth and formally declare the meeting open at exactly 5 p.m. I respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we meet, the Whadjuk Noongar people of Western Australia, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It is a privilege to be standing on Whadjuk Noongar country. CEO, can I ask you to recite the prayer, please?
Almighty God, under whose providence we hold responsibility for this city, grant us wisdom to understand its present needs, foresight to anticipate its future growth, and grace to serve our fellow citizens with integrity and selfless devotion. And to thee be all blessing and glory forever. Amen.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please be seated. So we will begin with attendance. And in attendance at our meeting tonight, we have the Deputy Lord Mayor, Di Bain, who has previously advised that she will need to leave the meeting early. Councillor Clyde Bevan, Councillor Brent Fleeton, Councillor Liam Gobbett, Councillor Rebecca Gordon and Councillor Catherine Leeser. In addition, I welcome officers, members of the public and any media in attendance. An apology has been received tonight, 3.2 leave of absence from Councillor Victor Coe, and Councillor Sandy Angie is currently on an approved leave of absence. Councillor Victor Coe is absent tonight. We move to item 3.3, and that is applications for leave of absence. Firstly, from Councillor Bevan has submitted a leave of absence. Thank you, Councillor Bevan, for the period 8 November 2022 to 12 December 2022 inclusive. And Councillor Leeser has submitted a leave of absence for 11 November 2022 to 18 November 2022 inclusive. And what about this for preparation? May 22, 2023 to 7 July 2023 inclusive. Thank you, Councillor Leeser. Do any elected members have an application for a leave of absence? Any further applications? Nothing over there. Nothing over there. Okay, so we'll need a mover and a seconder for those. Mover, thank you, Councillor Gordon. Seconder, Councillor Gobbett. Anybody opposed there? So that is approved unanimously. Thank you. Item 4 is Lord Mayor's announcements. Is that a new script again? Gee, they keep coming, don't they? Thank you. So other than to say, we acknowledge the role of the City of Perth and staff in the memorial services around the Queen last week. And again, thank you to all of those who are involved. I was fortunate in the middle of the long weekend to be in the city yesterday. There was a terrific crowd in the city yesterday. Really good atmosphere and a lot of people around, and there's no doubt our spring weather brings out the best in our city. Our summer schedule of events and the publicity around that summer schedule of events looks absolutely first class, and we'll be very excited to share that in the coming weeks and month or so, both our own events and those we are helping facilitate this year. Terrific crowds across the long weekend reported from the organisers at the PCEC of the Lego events on the opening weekend. Absolutely brilliant. Telethon is back in the city next month. Our Christmas lights and our City of Light summer shows kick off on November 19. All of that coming very soon. Our team working very hard. And I think what we're going to see roll out in our city over summer, but really it begins before summer starts. It begins from October as the spring weather kicks in, is going to be absolutely first class. There's a lot for us to get very excited about, and you'll hear more about that as our time goes on, but I look forward to sharing more details soon. Item 5 is disclosures of interest, and on the agenda, CEO, can you please detail the interests which have been disclosed?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The following interests have been disclosed. A proximity interest from Councillor Leeser in relation to item 11.1, as her apartment is directly in the proposed flight plan. A direct financial interest from Deputy Lord Mayor Bain in relation to item 11.4, as a building owner donated to her election campaign. an impartiality interest from Deputy Lord Mayor Bain in relation to item 12.1, as she has donated to Perth Festival and Tourism WA also has a relationship with Perth Festival, an impartiality interest from Councillor Gobbett in relation to item 12.1 as he attended the program launch for Perth International Arts Festival, and a proximity interest from Councillor Leeser in relation to item 12.1 as her property is directly across the road from the Perth Concert Hall, a proposed venue.
Thank you, CEO. Do any elected members have any disclosures of interest from the floor?
Yes, actually, Lord Mayor, I do. Apologies, I didn't send this one through earlier. At item 11.3, retail core refresh, Murray Street Mall, I have a direct financial relationship as a particular owner of building in that precinct donated to my election campaign.
Financial. You got the paperwork, Deputy Lord Mayor, or you'll make sure that it makes its way up? Thank you very much. Item 6 is public participation, and 6.1 is public question time. CEO, have any public questions been received?
No, Lord Mayor.
Okay, CEO, in that case, are there any public questions from the floor? That would appear to be a no. Item 7, confirmation of minutes. So can I ask somebody please to move a motion to confirm the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held August 30 as true and a correct record? Thank you, Councillor Bevan, seconded by Councillor Leeser. Does any member oppose this motion? Nope. We will declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Did I say it? I don't think I did. So I'm going to go back and say it now, just for the record. Please note that in accordance with Council Policy 1.4, this meeting is being live streamed to the world. And the recording will be made available on the city's website following the meeting. You could be anywhere. You could even be on that NASA thing that shot off today and watching our council meeting via the technology available. And I would not be surprised if NASA are watching. Let's move on to... I got very excited then, as you can tell. Item 8. Thank you. Questions by members which due notice has been given. There are none. Item 9 is correspondence. No correspondence has been received, although I've got a very full inbox, and that sort of counts, but they get replied to in a different way. And item 10 is petitions. No petitions have been received. Before we move on to reports, the following items have been identified to be moved en bloc. They are 11.2, request to rename Nelson Avenue/Crescent, East Perth, to Ceylani Avenue/Crescent, East Perth. 11.3, retail core refresh, phase 2, Murray Street Mall.
Sorry, Lord Mayor.
Yes. So 11.3 will come off now because of that financial interest that was recently declared. Thank you. 14.1 is the monthly financial statements, July 2022. 15.1, freedom of entry, the 10th Light Horse Regiment. 16.2, New South Wales Compliance Audit Report, New South Wales Annual Compliance Audit Certificate 2022. And 16.3, Vic Roads Compliance Audit Report, July 2022. Do any elected members wish to extract any of the items I've just listed from en bloc? No? So I'll move a motion that these items be dealt with en bloc. Can I get a seconder, please? Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Any members oppose? No, so this motion being unopposed, I'll declare it carried unanimously. The recommendations of those items have now been passed en bloc in accordance with clause 9.2 of the City of Perth Standing Orders Local Law 2009, and the officer and or committee recommendations have been adopted by Council. So we'll now move to the reports extracted for debate. We begin with 11, Planning and Economic Development Alliance reports. 11.1, initiation of amendment number 47 to City Planning Scheme number 2 and amendments number 5 to Local Planning Scheme number 26, normalised redevelopment areas. Councillor Leeser is vacating the chamber. She has a proximity interest. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation here? Thank you, Councillor Gobbett. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor Bain. Councillor Gobbett. Nothing from you? Deputy Lord Mayor Payne?
No, nothing from me other than I fully support the right of a helicopter to fly people into our emergency hospital.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor Payne. Anyone wish to speak for or against? Councillor Gobbett? All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. I wonder if somebody would be good enough to let Councillor Leeser know. I did turn the live stream on for blowing my nose. Thank you, CEO. 11.2, they might have heard that at NASA as well. Request to rename Nelson Avenue / Crescent, East Perth to Sailani. Am I saying that right, by the way? Sailani Avenue Crescent in East Perth. Would anyone like to... That one's on block, beauty. Through. 11.3, am I saying it right? Sailani? 11.3, the retail core refresh. Thanks, Councillor Bain. Leaving due to that financial disclosure earlier. Phase 2, Murray Street Mall. And that is no longer on block. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. A seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gobbett. Anyone else for or against? Councillor Fleeton. All those in favour? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. I could invite the Deputy Lord Mayor back in. Next one. Sorry, Deputy Lord Mayor. Back to back. 11.4, number 129, lot 97, Barrack Street, Perth. Proposed change of use from small bar entertainment to adult retail shop, restricted premises, unlisted use, including external and fit-out works and signage. The Deputy Lord Mayor is outside of the room, has declared a direct financial interest. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation here? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. A seconder, please. Gee, it was tight. I'm going to give it to Councillor Bevan. Sorry, not much in it, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gobbett? Councillor Bevan? Anyone else for or against? Councillor Gobbett? All those in favour? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. No, I'm just checking anyone need to go out. Councillor Leeser this time. 12 is Community Development Alliance reports. 12.1 is Major Events and Festival Sponsorship, Perth Festival 2023. Councillor Leeser has a proximity interest that's been declared and has left the chamber. An impartiality interest from Councillor Gobbett, an impartiality interest from the Deputy Lord Mayor. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation here? Thank you, Councillor Gobbett. Do we have a second to Councillor Gordon? Couldn't be beaten that time. Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Gordon. Anyone else for or against? Councillor Gobbett. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Leeser. 13, Infrastructure and Operation Alliance reports. There aren't any tonight. 14, Corporate Services Alliance reports. The monthly financial statements for July 2022. That's on block. 14.2 has been extracted for debate. The schedule of accounts paid July 2022. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Gordon. Anybody wish to speak for or against? Councillor Fleeton.
Just against, Lord Mayor. I'm just registering my vote against. It's coming up to 2 years since I first started questioning descriptions in these reports, and there are still too many descriptions which just aren't adequate or helpful.
Anyone else wish to speak for? Against? Councillor Gobbett was our mover there. Councillor Gobbett. We'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? And that is Councillor Leeser, Gobbett, Lord Mayor, Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Gordon. Those against is Councillor Fleeton, and that's been passed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Thank you. 14.3, Major Review of Council Policy 2.2, Purchasing and Associated Delegations. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation? Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Fleeton.
Thanks. Thanks to the city and the new procurement manager for the work to date and for answering my laborious questions last week. Trusting his judgment and what he's proposing here, I note there's a series of answers to some of my questions in a further item, but I'll answer that in confidential. I just think overall we do need a period of stability in this area. We need a time where we're working on one policy that's also guiding training, which can take its time to embed itself in the organisation. So well done on work to date. It's just going to be interesting to see how it is rolled out in training modules. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gobbett. Anyone? Yes, Councillor Gordon.
I'd like to move an amendment to the officer's recommendation. And the wording, elected members can see it in the question register on page 5.
So have you all seen?
So it
Oh,
should
yeah.
be-
Can I ask you to read that out loud, please,
Yes,
Councillor Gordon?
that a point 3 be added to the motion, which reads as follows. Request that the CEO take appropriate steps to phase out the ability for junior staff to sign agreements.
Thank you. We need a seconder there. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. What was I going to say? I understand the review before us this evening hasn't resulted in what I'm seeking to amend, but it is the first time that the elected member body have seen this delegation for staff members to be able to execute contracts articulated and clearly presented to us. My issue with this is that allowing junior staff to execute agreements is primarily that it blurs the lines of who has authority to execute what. If a junior staff member was to sign a multi-million-dollar agreement, most organisations can rely on the fact that the individual has no authority, no actual authority, no apparent authority to sign agreements of such magnitude. It would be difficult for the city to make this argument, given that staff members from officer level and upwards do have authority to enter agreements. This makes a representation to the city's counterparties that officers have the ability to execute agreements and as such may have apparent authority to execute agreements of a higher value. An officer may inadvertently legally bind the city to a contract well outside their delegated authority. I'm not saying that this would happen, but mature organisations have this control for a reason. My amendment is intentionally vague, and thank you to our Acting Alliance Manager for discussing with me today, seeking to get further detail. It's intentionally vague. I haven't sought to define exactly how it will be achieved or when it will be achieved. I respect our Manager of Procurement, and while I have a professional opinion on how this could be done, I believe that he will be able to determine the best measure and the best timing to do it. I note that there's a response on page 5 of our question register. However, it appears to be somewhat contradictory to what we received in the register last week. Last week we were told that this system is prevalent in more mature businesses. It was considered for this review, but the change impacts were assessed to be too significant in the context of basic improvement the city is trying to implement. It may be considered in the future. So my amendment is being respectful of the response we received last week. It gives the administration the freedom to determine the when and the how that this important change will be made, but also ensures that it is clearly a journey we want to be on. I also note that the amendment only pertains to the execution of agreements. Thus, the admin's comments about purchase orders are not relevant. There should be no cost associated with this amendment. It is merely requesting the admin start taking those steps to reduce this risk, and I therefore seek the support of my fellow elected members.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Just before Deputy Lord Mayor, so I have the question, and I'm not sure who I'm asking the question to actually, but the junior staff, what is the definition of junior staff? What definition are we working off for that?
Well, if it's ambiguous, I'm happy to change it to anyone below manager level, but the intention, as I stated, but not specifically to that point, is to be to give the administration the freedom to determine, do we phase it out? Do they, like at the moment, an officer can physically sign a contract and that will bind the city. That is not the situation in most organisations. Having worked in procurement for over a decade is very bizarre. So junior staff, if we want to change it, if that's too ambiguous, I can make it more specific. But my thoughts were that I'd allow the people closest to the business to determine when, where, and how this would occur.
Deputy Lord Mayor, is there anything you'd like to say?
I'd just like to also maybe get some clarification on a couple of points. So, do we not have a delegations register that says who can sign what and how many people sign contracts of what value? Or is this separate?
See ya.
Thank you. Yes, we do. And if I could maybe ask the General Manager, Commercial Services, to answer that question, please. Oh, sorry, Corporate Services. Although Commercial could answer it, I'm sure.
Well, the city does have a delegations register. The one we also have a financial authority authorities that we list in the policy that are very specific about what staff are authorised to undertake what types of purchasing activity, and it's very specific. It's important to note that a purchase order is in fact a type of agreement. It may not be signed.
Keep going, thanks.
It may not be a signed contract the way that you're defining it, but we have over 6,000 purchase orders raised in the city every year, and this would significantly impact our business if our staff are not able to make that undertaking. So I would caution against making the city undergo that sort of process.
So, Deputy Lord Mayor, was there another question?
Yeah,
Did you wish to speak for the amendment?
Just to follow up, I just wondered, so are we talking about a situation here where an individual comes in and applies, for some kind of work and an officer signs a contract? It's not necessarily a purchase order because that's the next step after signing a contract. Is that where, is that the missing gap in some of the wording?
So from the CEO back to the General Manager, Corporate Services.
We have contracts that can be attached to purchase orders. We have purchase orders that may not have a contract attached to them. They can be under their own terms and conditions. Through the Lord Mayor, I think we should ask for an elaboration from the procurement manager in this regard.
Okay, yeah. Yep. Procurement Manager, if you could.
Thank you. Just to answer the Deputy Lord Mayor's question, we do have 11.1 in the Delegations and Authorities Register, which talks about who can authorise and execute a document. The only references there are that because the person has to have delegated authority, statutory authority, financial authorisation, or operational authorisation, other than deeds. So that is specified in the existing delegations today. What we're seeking to do is put a financial approval limit over the top of that, which actually adds additional governance in this space. Independent of any financial authority, the existing delegation does technically allow anyone to sign anything, as long as they've been given financial or statutory approval. This outlines what that financial approval is, and I suppose the lower down the organisational structure a person is, the lower value that they can approve. So there are checks and balances, there are escalations based on value to make sure that the right contracts are signed by the right people. And to support the General Manager of Corporate Services response, purchase orders can be independent of contracts, and that's why we have to address them collectively. We can't just look at one or the other. Issuing a purchase order without a contract is still making a financial commitment, and we do allow lower level officers to do that, and we have to if we want to operate efficiently.
So, Deputy Lord Mayor, did you wish to speak for the amendment?
No, I've got nothing else to say.
So I've got a couple of further questions, if I may. So I'm keen to understand what the impact on the organisation would be in terms of us being a place that can do business or is easy to do business with. CEO, are you or one of your officers able to outline that?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think the response to the question is provided, but maybe we could ask the General Manager, Corporate Services, just to outline the impact on the organisation potentially.
At the moment, our current purchasing policy allows for purchasing activity to be undertaken within the current processes that we have in place. What the new policy does is actually put some financial limitations around that process, including what financial levels each area of the organisation can in fact commit the city to. So it's actually strengthening our current purchasing activities within the city. The city, as I said earlier, undertakes over 6,000 purchase activities a year. Those purchase activities can currently be undertaken by approximately 500 of our staff. If we were to change that to a manager, that would basically be less than 100 staff could undertake this process, which would severely limit our ability to purchase in a timely fashion across the organisation. It's important to note that the procurement policy is only one aspect of the controls and checks and balances the city has in place. We have a myriad of checks and balances in place across the city to make sure this isn't undertaken in a haphazard way. And that is audited every year. And since I've been here, we have not found an anomaly in that regard. KPMG undertook a significant statistical sample of our procurement processes and did not find an anomaly in that regard. In fact, they found us being overly conservative. So I would caution against it. Perhaps certainly we need to consider very carefully what the impact of the city would be, and I'm not sure that anybody here would truly know. Certainly in the state government where I've come from, this is common practice, and it's certainly been one at the city for as long as I can determine. So while I'm not saying the city's perfect, what we're putting in place is even more stringent than we have now. So to undo that or to take that to a whole new level when the city's purchasing capabilities still developing would probably not be prudent at this point.
Thanks, General Manager. I am going to speak against the amendment. Or did you have something in regard to that first?
Just seeking to clarify how we sign our purchase orders.
CEO? General Manager.
So there must be a need identified in the business.
How are they signed?
So hang on. There must be a need identified in the business and a budget item that's allocated through our budgeting process identified. A purchase requisition is then raised. A purchase requisition is approved by a manager. A purchase order is then raised. That purchase order is then post that process goes through our procurement office to be approved. Once we receive the goods or service, a team leader must cite the goods or the service and reapprove the goods, the goods receipt. Mm-hmm. And then finally, when the goods receipt, the purchase order and the purchase requisition line up in our ERP system, they go through an automated process, and our accounts payable team make that payment. It is not necessarily signed in terms of what you might consider a signature on a piece of paper. Goes through an ERP process, which has a whole range of checks and balances and limitations on it that line up with people's specific financial delegations as outlined in the purchase policy So all our systems are set with those actual financial limits in them. And somebody with a low purchasing level, let's say they're an officer, they can only approve up to $5,000. And if they go above and beyond that, then that moves up to the next person in the system.
Okay, so just to clarify, purchase requisitions and purchase orders are not signed within this organisation.
GM? CEO through the GM?
They may be or they may not. They can go through different processes for which we deem approval. But for further information, perhaps, Lord Mayor, through you to the procurement manager.
Okay. Procurement manager?
Thank you. Purchase orders aren't generally signed. There's an offer and acceptance, but the commitment of a purchase order not being signed is no different to a contract. In fact, in some ways, purchase orders are actually more of an immediate commitment than contracts are. We can have contracts that are signed for multi-millions of dollars, but there might actually be no financial commitment until a purchase order is issued. So whether they're signed or not, it's actually irrelevant. And this is the same. Hence the answer we gave earlier, saying that we can actually make verbal commitments, and there can be what did I write? Verbal offer and acceptance or implied acceptance. And if we issue a purchase order and accept it and the work is done, it's accepted. It doesn't need to be physically signed.
Yeah, but in terms of relevance, the amendment is specifically talking about signature on agreements. Therefore, it is not relevant to the amendment on the table. Is that not correct?
While signing agreement is a form of commitment, and what we're trying to demonstrate is there's multiple forms of commitment.
You good, Councillor Gordon? Sorry? I couldn't hear what you said. Oh, you didn't say anything. Okay. Procurement manager, do you envisage any reputational damage to yourself or the organisation with the arrangement that we have in place? Are you worried in any way?
No, I think it's actually stronger than what we've already got, and I think it brings together different elements of the city to actually give better governance in this space.
Same question to you, General Manager, Corporate Services.
The procurement policy improves the rigour that we're putting around our purchasing activity at the city and enhances our procurement controls further than they currently are at the city.
Okay, and CEO, same question to you.
I'm taking the advice of the experts in this space.
Okay, so off the back of those three responses, and with the response that's already been provided to Councillor Gordon, which I have obviously the benefit of, like other elected members, of being able to see in front of me, and the administration's response was that the removal of the ability for junior staff to enter into an agreement, signed or otherwise, would have a significant impact to the city's operations. The city, for instance, undertakes more than 6,000 purchase orders every year. It's important to note that there are a number of checks and balances in place to manage this process, including workflow system limits and, more recently, mandatory training. The process is also audited annually. Thus, the city strongly recommends against phasing out the ability for junior staff to sign agreements. It would create major delays in purchasing activities across the city. So given the three responses that I just heard and that response from the administration, I am I am against the amendment that is on the table currently. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against the amendment? Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I'm going to err on the side of caution on this, I think. I've heard some of the commentary that's been provided, and I can't say that my experience in working in also contracts and procurement is as described. I'm what would be considered a junior member of staff, and I do not have the ability to commit or enter into a contract. But I can definitely do work associated with it and shove a bit of paper under someone's nose that does have delegated authority to do that. But taking the advice from our manager and general manager, I think I'm going to, just as I said, err on the side of caution for the simple reasons that are outlined in the response. Although I understand the intent of what Councillor Gordon's seeking to do, I think in this instance it's probably better to just accept the advice that we have in front of us.
Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Anyone else for the amendment or against the amendment? So, Councillor Gordon.
I'll jump in if I can.
For or against?
Sadly against.
Okay.
So,
Why do you say sadly?
Because I cherish Rebecca's friendship, and this is going.
Well, is it going to be blown over this, Councillor Fleet? Surely not. Surely
might.
you're more robust, both of you, than that.
I've only got 5 minutes, but no. Look, it's a big change that we're making here, and I've spent far too much time today trawling through audit and risk audits and the resulting recommendations. I think the best thing to do here is to implement the new policy, implement the training packages that go with it, go through the audit and risk recommendations and make sure that they're built into what we're doing. I understand where you're going, and I didn't agree with the toing and froing on something that's different. It's quite clearly saying to sign agreements. But overall, the city doesn't want to do this. They've got enough on their plate implementing the new procurement policy, or the purchasing policy, sorry. We've got enough trouble in getting staff at a reasonable level of accuracy, writing transcripts or a descriptor on paying a bill. I mean, let alone doing something like this. So why don't we, in a year, see how the procurement or the purchasing policy is going, do a snapshot, and if it needs to be done, we can do it.
Thanks, Councillor Fleet. So, Councillor Gordon, if there was no one else for or against, Councillor Gordon to close.
I think Councillor Fleeton summed it up nicely when he said, clear the organisation doesn't want to do this. To clarify, I'm fully supportive of the change to the policy. It's quite a substantial change. It's well detailed, it's well articulated. It's called out what I see to be quite a big issue within this organisation, that individuals of officer level can physically put their signature to a contract. I've worked in procurement and as a lawyer for well over a decade. This is a huge risk to our organisation, but obviously that doesn't matter to other people around the table.
Well, perhaps the opinion's just not shared, Councillor Gordon. I mean, I don't think it's fair to say that that doesn't matter. Well, I am the Lord Mayor, and I think I've been told by all of my fellow councillors that the meeting can be run the way the Lord Mayor wants it to run.
The amendment would make absolutely no change to the policy. It makes absolutely no change whatsoever to the 6,000 purchase orders issued every year. We went through the steps of how they're issued. There is no signature being applied at any one of those steps. That didn't seem to matter. All this was doing was asking that when this policy comes back to us in 2 years' time and we ask the same question that we got the response to last week, this is a system which is prevalent in more mature businesses. It was considered for this review, but the change impacts were assessed to be too significant in context of the improvements we are presently implementing. It may be considered in the future. In 2 years' time, when this policy comes back, I just don't want to get that answer again. I want to say, yes, we've taken these steps. It has been foreshadowed within the organisation. We are now a mature organisation, but if no one wants to support that, then that's well noted.
We're about to find out. Thank you, Councillor Gordon. All those in favour? That's Councillor Gordon and Deputy Lord Mayor Bain. All those against? That's Councillor Leeser, Councillor Gobbert, the Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Fleet. And I'm sure the friendship will endure. 5-2, that's been defeated. So we return now to the original and Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Gobbert, anyone wish to speak for or against? So, Councillor Gobbert, is there anything you wish to add?
I don't wish to close, but hey, what the heck? Let's move a procedural.
No, you're not closing. Just you're speaking for, if you wish.
No, I'm moving a procedural motion to put the vote.
Say that again, sorry.
Moving a procedural motion to put the vote.
Okay, and we shall do that right now. All those in favour, and that's carried unanimous. The seconder was Councillor Fleeton's hand, I think. No.
The seconder to the procedural motion.
Yes, it was Councillor. Sorry, saw a hand over there. Councillor Gordon, thank you. So we got that? Thank you. Let's go to 15. Chief Executive Officer reports. 15.1, the Freedom of Entry 10th Light Horse Regiment on block. 15.2, 2022 Culture Survey results. So this has been extracted for debate. Would anybody like to move the officer's recommendation here? Thank you, Councillor Gobbert. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Bevan. Councillor Gobbert.
No, thank you, Lord Mayor.
Councillor Bevan. Anyone wish to speak for So you got a question, have you, Councillor Fleeton? Away you go.
Thank you. So discussion point 9 on page 259, it outlines 3 focus areas that employees feel will make the City of Perth an even better workplace. Is council going to be provided with some overarching information on the steps that management decides to take, which will work towards those areas that they feel they have merit?
CEO.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, the process that we are proposing from here will be each of the general managers will work with their alliances. The alliances will look to their specific areas, and then that will feed through to our employee consultative committee, and that will then feed through to the executive leadership team. So it's a holistic approach. We're very happy if you would like to see that brought back to an EMES. We can share some of the strategies that have been recommended by the staff. We would like to see this as really being a staff-led reform process.
Sure. So I might ask if I'll discuss it first. So I'm wanting to defer it because it feels like it's missing point 3, which is to note or endorse or acknowledge closing out the process, which is the lessons learned part. So I completely see where the survey is. There's huge improvement there. There's lessons learned to be made. So it would be good to maybe at a future council meeting, we can endorse and note it now. But I don't think it does it justice if we just say we'll leave it there from a council, because it would be good to see in 2 years what did you propose, and then we can look at in 2 years and where we're coming from.
So, yeah. So, Councillor Fleeton, is that a question, or are you speaking against what we have before us here?
Well, it's missing a third. So.
Do you want to move an amendment? Is that what you're having to do?
No, I'll leave my comments there and I'll leave it up to others.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Councillor Gordon, you wish to speak against, is that correct?
I have questions, but I think Councillor Gobbett got in before me.
I also had questions, but the ladies first.
Such a gentleman. Thank you. So I asked a series of questions over the weekend and we got some responses. And my first question, follow-up question is, why are we being asked to endorse it rather than note it? And what is the difference between the two?
CEO.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, the inquiry report suggests endorsing, and so we've used the same language that is the inquiry recommendation.
So follow-up question to that, I guess, is that my recollection is that the inquiry report recommended we endorse the report and the follow-up actions. So I just find it bizarre that we're being asked to endorse a snapshot of a report that we haven't read and no actions to fall out of it. Like, happy to note it, but I just don't understand what, as an elected member, am I endorsing as such?
I think the report is the report. That is the report, isn't it? Am I right in saying that? What we've seen is the report.
Correct. I think also through the Lord Mayor, if I could just respond, the inquiry recommendations, obviously written in advance of the 2020 survey, which the Commissioners independently undertook as part of their exiting of the organisation. So in truth, the inquiry recommendations were satisfied. It could have been through that baseline report in 2020. I think in relation to the components of that recommendation, like any inquiry, working in advance of knowing what the organisation, what form it might take, has suggested actions. They would normally be worked on over a period of time. In performance indicators, you would also recall there are pulse checks underway over a period of time as well. So I think it's fair to say the report is the organisational culture report. The actions that will arrive out of that through any good process needs to take time and be informed by the organisation. The inquiry report talks to all of this information being brought forward to Council in a 3-month period. I think, and I'm fairly confident, that the reviewer's intent was that there would be a discussion around next steps. However, forming what they look like, I think, should be given the time that the organisation, informed again by the staff, need to ensure that it is embedded.
Councillor Gordon? Councillor Gordon?
Some other follow-up questions. So, question 3 was about the performance on par or better, and also the Net Promoter Score Alliance. Like from the report or the scorecard, there's not sufficient information to actually understand the detail presented, and those items actually present. I know we're saying we've improved. I actually think those items are quite positive, and we're concealing them by not providing enough information. So can we actually provide, in whatever is going to be made public, even though it's already public, can we actually provide information as to what that is and how it's been calculated? Because we're disguising things that don't need to be disguised.
CEO?
I wouldn't agree through the Lord Mayor. I think this is actually the culture report. The additional questions that you've asked have gone into detail around the methodology, and this is the culture report that has been put forward by independent consultants after undertaking an independent and anonymous survey of all of our staff.
So just a follow-up question from that, and I think so the report that we have read is not the City of Perth's report, it's the report provided by the external consultant, correct? And that's the same one that we saw last week, who told us they do it for how many councils around Australia?
Correct.
How many was it?
I don't recall how many was mentioned.
Yeah. So the report isn't your report, it's not my report, it's their report into us, into our culture.
It is a report into the culture of the organisation that has been independently undertaken by Catalyst, and also is the feedback from all of our staff.
Okay. And just a follow-up question from me. So this is now public, correct? It's been made public?
Correct. So when it went out with all of the agenda papers, it has been made public. It has also been provided to all of the staff, and there has been a briefing by the independent consultant to the leadership team as well.
Okay, thank you. Just one other question. Do other councils here in WA make theirs public?
No, as we were advised by the independent consultant, he is unaware of any other councils across Australia who disclose their information on a cultural survey.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Can I make an amendment to the council resolution?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like that the council, can you undelete that? Whoever just deleted. Thank you. Can I make an amendment to say that the council notes the culture survey or accepts the culture survey employee scorecard 2022 City of Perth report prepared by Catalyse. It notes the overall improvement in organisational culture compared to the previous survey conducted in 2020, and that we request the city comes back to council with a update on how the administration plans to respond to some of the key focus issues that have been raised.
Let's just give a moment for some wording there.
Lord Mayor, I've already said that I'm committed to come back to an EMES. Why would you put an operational matter to council?
You could also say, well, what difference? If you're saying
because then it's an operational matter. And why would we bring what is, for what purpose we need to be setting strategy.
Sorry, I think I changed it to accepts the culture employees scorecard.
well, just as that's being worked out, I've noted, so you've already said that you will bring this back to an EMES, correct?
Correct.
So do we need to do, well,
That's what will be debated.
yeah. Yes, correct.
request the CEO to report back to elected members on how the city proposes to respond to the key themes within the next 6 months.
Okay, do we have a seconder for the amendment that now includes point 3, Councillor Gordon?
Thank you. The reason I think it's important to put this on the record in this way is because contemporary best practice governance tells us that while it's great to survey your staff, you need to actually respond to some of the concerns and criticisms and inquiries that staff have. And this just puts on the public record that we're very serious about culture in the city. I know the administration's very serious about it as well, and it tells the community that we are putting some checks and balances in place.
Thanks, Councillor Bain. Councillor Gordon?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bain, for the proposed amendment. I think it's prudent to make those amendments. I think accepting or receiving the scorecard is more correct, as we're not endorsing it. There's no action undertaken. We're not privy to any further information that we're saying that that's the summary of. All we're doing is receiving it and acknowledging that that is a summary of what Catalyse has received as a result of the survey. And secondly, likely the intention anyway that this was to be presented to elected members, but just firming that up. And as a Deputy Lord Mayor Bain has said, just prudent to ensure that there's clear messaging that this is a priority to us. We're taking steps in the right direction. I think the results are trending in the right direction, and let's just see what else can be done to ensure that that is continued into the future.
Okay, is there anyone who wishes to... Yes, Councillor Gobbin.
Question, Lord Mayor, and maybe in picking up what I'm saying, I could invite a point of clarification. To the point 3 of the motion, is Councillor Bain asking the city to respond to the key themes? Like, you've got to figure out a resolution and respond to us and address it in everything that the report raises. You want that addressed within 6 months, or you want a topic of discussion within 6 months? Because those are two different things.
Yeah, how they're going to do it, not what are they going to do. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yep, we can do that. So request the CEO, so an amendment there, request the CEO report back to elected members within 6 months. That's probably, yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
So
not with all the minutiae and little itty bitty.
At the moment, all we've got is request the CEO report back to elected members within 6 months, and that's all it says now.
And then the rest of the motion, just to clarify, it was just moving the within 6 months after the words elected members.
So the other bit that was there needs to go back in. Is that what we're saying? Yeah. Right.
So instead of 6 months at the end of the sentence, it needs to be in the middle of the sentence.
Okay. Request the CEO to report back to elected members within 6 months on how the city proposes to respond to the key themes. Is there anyone that wishes to speak against? Yes, Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. These survey results are excellent and should definitely be celebrated, and it shows that the city is working in a unified and positive way towards a common goal, which is really wonderful. I trust the administration to get on and do the work that's come out of this survey, and I don't think it's useful to add to another report to elected members about how they're going to get on with the survey. I think you can just get on with it. So I don't need it to report it back to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Anyone wish to speak for the amendment?
Yes, I'd like to speak for the amendment. Contrary to Councillor Leeser, I'd love to see how the city's going to make it an even better place to work. This would be a wasted exercise if we just patted ourselves on the back and said, amazing job. we are doing very well. Don't let that hide it. It's half time in a 4-year journey. But there are some lessons learned here, and the city will be able to do it. What this is about accountability and us doing our job and the city doing theirs. We're not trying to do it. We shouldn't have input into what these measures are. That's the city's job. It's just to understand, what did you come up with? What did the staff decide? And we can look over it. It'll be great. We're just doing our job by doing this.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak against or for? So this is the amendment we're dealing with here. So, look, I'm going to speak against it. I think we're doing the work. I think we have done a significant body of work already, and I think there's been great improvements seen. I'm just not sure that we need point 3. I'm not sure that that achieves anything that is not already going to be achieved by our very capable organisation and administration who are on this journey with us. We hear it every time we're together. It's like somehow something's dropped out of the sky and this is a revelation to us. We know the journey we're on. It's a long journey. We need them getting on and doing it, and us having the trust that the journey that we are on together is the one that's heading in the right direction. And we've seen that by acknowledging the overall improvement in the organisational culture compared to the previous survey conducted in 2020. It's point 2 and it's in there. It's a work in process, and that work in progress I support. So I'm a no to this one, DLM. Is there anyone else for or against? Yes, Councillor Gobbett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, to be honest, I was quite happy to accept the report. On consideration of the debate, I think point 3 is no different to asking for an elected member engagement session. So that would be open to any elected member to do it, irrespective of whether or not 3 was there anyway, which Councillor Bain could do tomorrow or right now in an email. Accepting, noting, receiving, look, I think it's a bit semantics to be honest, but I would prefer also to see receives. But look, accepts, I think that would give it the same sort of weight, but yeah, look, personally, I don't think it's such a huge issue requesting it to report back. It could be a CIBN for all we know, but I don't think it's that too far out of the realm of something to request for us to be given some sort of an update. We get updates on security matters in the city quarterly. We get updates on all number of things. So I think this just sets a little bit of a priority. But look, I'm quite happy to see what the CEO is able to give back to us.
Okay, so Councillor Bevan.
I'm prepared to speak against the amendment. I believe that the endorsement is the right word, as this is, according to the gentleman who spoke to us, this is a good result, and I'm happy to endorse it as a good result for what it is.
Thanks, Councillor Bevan. Anyone else for or against? I think we've covered everybody, haven't we? No, we have. Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. I suppose I'll just close with encouraging people to do their homework on best practice governance. It is not good enough in the year 2022 to just accept survey results. You need to act on them, and it's not good enough for boards and all councils whose role it is to provide oversight to just accept that a survey's been done and these are the results without follow-up. So I'd encourage my fellow elected members to be proactive and endorse and support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're now going to put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour, and that is Councillor Gobbett, Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Gordon and Councillor Fleet. And those against is Councillor Leeser, the Lord Mayor, and Councillor Bevan. So we return now. Oh, that's right. Carried 4-3, and we return to the primary. And who? Councillor Gobbett. Has Councillor Gobbett spoken to that? To the primary?
Don't think I did, Lord Mayor, but I'm happy not to.
Okay, and seconder? Councillor Bevan. Councillor Bevan? I think you've said it. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Look, I'm going to speak for and reiterate what I said earlier. I think these results are excellent. We are heading in the right direction. And as those of you who were in the room with us last Tuesday when they were delivered to us, they are the best results that the City of Perth has scored under this recording methodology in the history of these being done. That dates back to 2017. There was one in 2019, one again in 2020, and one now in 2022. and this is the best result that this city has scored. We're not at the end of the journey, but we're on our way. And to see the very positive upswing in these scores suggests that the changes that this leadership team has made and continues to make, and the culture that this organisation continues to build, has us heading to where we want to go. This is a good place to work with a lot of good people, and the leadership team are working very, very hard to get the morale, the work processes, and the atmosphere in and around our city, our building, and at all of our depots exactly where we would expect it to be in an organisation of this size. And is again worth repeating, we're the only organisation that makes these results public. I think that says something about our culture and says something about where we are heading, that we want people to see this. And this report is public for a reason, and I'm very proud to lead an organisation that says, here it is, go your hardest, have a look. And I'm pleased that we're able to do that. So with that, anyone else wish to speak for or against? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 16, Audit and Risk Committee Report. 16.1, Development Approvals Internal Audit. Would anyone like to, Councillor Bain, just for the record, is leaving. Would anyone like to move the committee's recommendation? Councillor Leeser, thank you. Seconded. Councillor Gobbett. Anything from Councillor Leeser? Councillor Gobbett. Anyone else for or against? All those in favour? Carried You wish to speak against? Okay. So all those in favour is Councillor Leeser, Councillor Gobbett, Lord Mayor, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Gordon. Those against, Councillor Fleeton. And that is passed 5-1. New South Wales Compliance Audit Report, New South Wales Annual Compliance Audit Certificate 2022, 16.2, that's on block. 16.3, Vic Roads Compliance Audit Report, July 2022, also on block. 16.4, Draft Strategic Audit Plan, final financial year 2022-2023. Would anyone like to move the committee's recommendation here? Thanks, Councillor Leeser. Seconder? Thanks, Councillor Gobbett. Councillor Leeser.
Just to thank the administration, and it's good to see an audit plan that is doable and certainly achievable in the next financial year.
Thank you. Councillor Gobbett.
Just to echo Councillor Leeser's comments, there was some discussion and debate about whether or not we should do it or should not do some components, but I think we've landed at a good outcome. Thanks.
Anyone wish to speak for, against?
Against, please, Lord Mayor. So the one I want to focus on is the audit to the owner and occupier role and the electoral role. It'd be the third audit in 3 years. The last one in August of last year cost 38 grand to ratepayers. It identified 5 areas for improvement. The city's confirmed that they've all been implemented. I worry that if we proceed as is starting in Q3 and the outline on page 328 puts it at sort of 3 months for when the audit would take place, then it needs to go to an ELT, then an ARC meeting, then a council meeting. And by the time anything would actually be implemented, you're getting very close to the roles being cut off. So I just wanted to echo my statements that I made in the ARC meeting here, because I just think it's a waste of time and money.
Thanks, Councillor Fleeton. Anyone else for or against?
If I can just ask a question based on that debate as to why actually to get clarity on whether the admin support including that in the audit plan now, or if that then has changed since the report was initially issued, and yeah, if we are supporting it, why are we supporting it if it's been done so recently?
Thanks, Councillor Gordon. CEO.
Thank you. Through the Lord Mayor, yes, we have clarified this in the answers to the question that Councillor Fleeton has raised, and it is on my recommendation that this is a prudent decision to make. It was actually one of a key focus area for the City of Perth inquiry. There was also further action taken by other bodies to investigate allegations in relation to some aspects of our electoral roll, and also the previous audit was 3 high risk and 1 medium, so it is actually at an end where I think the city would want some confidence going into a mayoral and also elected members election next year. I think if it is, as Councillor Fleeton is suggesting, possibly not much to be seen here, well, then it will give us the confidence and the process will be undertaken well in advance of the electoral roll closing.
Councillor Goodman, is there for or against? Okay. Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No. Councillor Fleeton? No. Okay. And that was moved by Councillor Leeser. Councillor Leeser. Sorry, so I wasn't asking you, Councillor Fleeton. Councillor Leeser.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. No, I trust the CEO's investigated that correctly, and I'm happy to go with this schedule. Thank you.
Put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Leeser, Councillor Gobbett, Councillor Bevan and Councillor Gordon. Those against is Councillor Fleeton. 5-1. That has been carried. Let's go to 17. Motions of which notice has been given and no notice of motions have been received. 18 is matters for which the meeting may be closed. And moving to 18, matters for which the meeting may be closed will move behind closed doors to consider the confidential items on tonight's agenda in accordance with section 5.232 of the Local Government Act 1995, and the live stream will be paused now. I'll move a motion to close, oh not yet, I'll move a motion to close the meeting to the public. Seconder, thanks Councillor Leeser. Anyone opposed? So can I now ask the public gallery to vacate the chamber and for the live stream to be paused now? 19, urgent business of which there is none, which takes us to item 20, that's closure. And so with no further business, I'm going to declare the ordinary council meeting closed at 6:26 p.m. Have a good evening, everybody, and thank you very much.
Could you please all rise for the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor of Perth, Mr Basil Zemplis.